Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing today? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Three Buck Theater. And when it comes to DC, especially the DCEU, things are kind of like they're really shaky right now, right? They're on shaky ground. You don't know where they're gonna go. So many people, they got hot takes. I've got many hot takes, right? The number one being hashtag release the Snyder cut, because what the hell is wrong with you, Warner Brothers? And I think that really does tie in to this article that popped up on Forbes that a lot of people are talking about today, where Danny DePlacido, and I'm probably mispronouncing that, put out a little piece here titled "DC Films Still Doesn't Know What to Do with Superman." And the thing is, they absolutely positively know what to do with Superman. They just are not going to do it because I think they're actually afraid. But I'm going to talk about that though, right? So it says here, having a recent piece in Variety delved into the future of Warner's DC films, and the studio having learned their lesson from the failure of Justice League, emboldened by the success of Joker, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman. Suicide Squad is being rebooted. Harley Quinn is starring in her own supervillain spinoff, and a new Batman is on the horizon, and the Joker is more popular than ever, with the studio even giving Green Lantern another shot. But the future of Superman is murky, and the studio reportedly is unsure how to make the character relevant to modern audiences. Well, here's the thing. If you go and you watch Zack Snyder's take on Superman, that was relevant to modern audiences. That was absolutely positively relevant to modern audiences. But I think so many people were so caught up in the idea of what they believe Superman to be that they just reacted negatively to it, because Superman should be something like what we saw in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. A person who's still navigating the world he grew up in, but from a completely different perspective. And that's what they were doing. The deconstruction of the superhero worked wonderfully, made him actually engaging on so many levels. But they freak out, as they always freak out. They can never do it. They always lose their damn mind because Warner's doesn't understand it. Now it goes on to say that Michael B. Jordan has pitched a fresh take on Superman, and the master of franchise reboots, J.J. Abrams, has had multiple discussions with the studio regarding the character. His solar-powered abilities, no doubt, providing exciting new opportunity for lens flares. But with no script or director attached, insiders believe that a new Superman movie is unlikely to appear before 2023. Well, Henry Cavill is still saying he's Superman. Warner's hasn't come out and said that he's not Superman. Many people believe that Cavill is out. I kind of believe he's out, but I think he's still holding on. I think he's waiting for the success of The Witcher to determine whether or not he's still Superman. And I believe that. I think if The Witcher, which is already greenlit for a season 2, ends up doing well, then what we're going to see here is a renewed interest in Henry Cavill's career, because he's the main character of The Witcher. And since 5 episodes of The Witcher have already been screened to the press, and they're coming out saying that it's amazing, Cavill ain't out of the game yet, right? Michael B. Jordan is not going to be Superman. Not that Superman. There's another Superman, like Calzad, or I don't know what his name is, Calzone, whatever. We don't know. I mean, well, no, it's out there. I don't know. I can't remember. One of you will tell me in the comment section. Now, going on to say here, it's interesting that Superman, a character instinctively associated with the word superhero, is providing difficult to adapt in the age of superhero saturation. Is it the character's godlike powers and the righteous attitude really too alienating for modern audiences? No, it's not. If Captain Marvel can gross $1 billion at the box office, when that movie literally had her in the same exact situation as Superman, minus kryptonite, meaning she was never in any real danger. That entire movie was just about overcoming one's own personal demons and personal fears. The concept of Superman, especially showcased in Man of Steel, Zack Snyder himself said when people were criticizing him having killed Zod, that, Superman doesn't kill. Well, Superman doesn't kill now, but he killed to protect, to understand the fragility of human life. He now has to understand what it means to be human in order to protect it. And I think that's such a great way of approaching the character that does not get the recognition that it so often deserves. Because they could take Henry Cavill as Superman. They could continue to work with the character, which, by the way, by the end of Justice League, it was Boy Scout Superman, and everyone was really happy with that because there was an arc for the character. There was a 3-movie arc for the character. But no, none of that really matters in the age of whether movie's a success or a bomb, right? Anyway, the article here goes on to say that that's usually the argument against Superman, but it doesn't really explain his sudden absence from the big screen. After all, Wonder Woman, Shazam, and Captain America are incredibly popular and all share that childlike earnestness and boundless optimism that defines Superman. So why isn't the Man of Steel thriving among his fellow do-gooders? It's Justice League. It's Justice League. And it's also BVS. Again, go just like, I mean, does everyone just overlook what actually happened? And this, again, all the time I see this and all the time I bring this up. And it drives me up the wall. It drives me batty. Because we know that Warner Brothers announced BVS in the summer of 2013 cast Ben Affleck. They shot the movie in 2014, I think in early 2015, pushed it to 2016, then chopped 30 minutes out of the movie in order to get the theatrical runtime down, which hurt the movie so badly that audiences and critics hated it. And as a result of that, it lost out on so much money. It lost out on so many things. And it fundamentally changed how DC approached making movies because they were afraid of their failure of their own executive, not the creative team. Albeit that third act of BVS still has some problems. Okay, I'm going to agree with you guys on that one. But they went in there and they wanted to change it all up. Then, of course, Justice League and the whole situation with Zack Snyder's version of the film versus the 80 pages that they reshot using Joss Whedon stuff, trying to match it tonally, which didn't work. And then, you know, they released a hard 2-hour cut and it just failed. But, they don't know how to make Superman modern and relevant, right? Go with what you were doing. You were doing it the right way. You insipid chuds. You were doing it the right way. People, here it is 6 years later, 6.5 years later, and there are so many people out there that love Henry Cavill as Superman because they got the emotional resonance of what Snyder was trying to do. Anyway, part of the problem might be this feverishly absurd mythology, one that is difficult to fully embrace without shifting the tone to comedy. That's not even true. What are you talking about? There was not a lot of comedy in Man of Steel. Oh my God. I can easily imagine Bizarro or Crypto the Superdog appearing in a sequel to Shazam, but not a Superman film. Superman's lore might be ridiculous, but he's not meant to be a joke, and he wasn't treated as a joke. Bizarro Superman would kind of work. They did that with Quest of Peace. That was basically Bizarro Superman, right? Let's just be fair. And Crypto the Superdog, I don't like any of that stuff anyway, right? I'm not a big fan of any of those dog with powers type stuff. I think that's always kind of dumb. You could just omit that, you know? Like, I mean, Marvel at least played up the Howard the Duck thing in Guardians of the Galaxy as a joke, you know? And that worked as a joke. But in these situations, it's kind of dumb. And now it says, in contrast, Man of Steel took Superman very seriously. Indeed, the character navigating the complexities of the modern world, but the film didn't feel true to Superman's personality. Zack Snyder's somber vision of Krypton with its phallic spaceships and scaly outfits was unintentionally even sillier than Shazam. This stuff should be rendered in bright colors and the costumes should be outlandish as they are in the comics. No, they shouldn't. Why? What? Because you want it to be that way? It was showcasing an alien planet. It was like treating it with at least some semblance of realism, you know? Zod having armor on and having the different types of the different houses having the S on it. There were elements there that were very fascinating about the world of Krypton and what it entailed. We only got a glimpse of it, but what we saw was actually pretty cool. What do you want? Like a West Hollywood Christmas party, or like a gay pride parade party to be happening on a Krypton with all those colors? And I'm not going to say that wouldn't be cool to check out because I think it kind of would be, but it would be something that would be silly and dumb in the context of which I'm describing it. And it would be played for a laugh, not talking about the complexities of what it means to be an alien living among humans who is literally a god who then takes up the moniker of wanting to save them. He still has to understand and learn what it means to be human in that order to keep himself in check instead of wanting to become Zod. His compassion and love for humanity is what prompted him to do what he did at the end of Man of Steel. And even in Batman v Superman, with him still trying to navigate the complexities of the real world, of there being congressional committees, whether or not Superman is an asset that should be utilized by our government, whether or not one can argue vigilantism actually works. There's so many complexities that went in to something like Batman v Superman that gets completely overlooked by dumbass articles like this. 100%. Oh, make them bright, shiny, bright colors at Krypton. Oh, it's just Crypto should have been. Oh my God. No, whatever, man. Whatever. Snyder then tried to redesign Superman's costume into something more sleek and intimidating, but that's not much more There's not much more you can do with an outfit like that that looks like pajamas, especially when it's as iconic as Superman's suit. You can't make too many changes, and you certainly can't make it look cool. I think the suit in Man of Steel and BVS was fine. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it worked. It didn't look like he was wearing tights. It didn't look like he was wearing, a banana hammock. It just didn't. It looked cool. It looked fine. I don't understand. Again, this is kind of one of those things where it's like, you want it to be like Lois and Clark Superman. That's what you want. You want it to be Christopher Reeve Superman, which so many people want, and I get that because that's it's great. Christopher Reeve Superman, those movies are fantastic. At least the first two, 3 and 4, kind of whatever, your mileage may vary. But we're past that age now. We're past that age, right? Where the story that Richard Donner told was fun, and it felt like it came right out of the pages of DC. But complex superhero stories can be done well, can be done to where they're profitable, to be treated, grounded in the reality of which they create, which is what they were doing with Man of Steel. People just want it pulled from the comic books, and I get that, but that's not interesting. That's not interesting to me. And I've always kind of rallied against Superman as a character simply because I find him to be boring, right? And if you're trying to sit there and say that you cannot put this character to modern audiences because he wasn't created during a modern time. He's got his core fan base of people, and that's never going to change. But you're not bringing in new people. Now, I would say something along the lines of the moral ambiguity and the moral complexity of Superman in The Dark Knight Returns. That's something worth exploring, right? Where basically Superman becomes a hitman for Nixon. Or whatever it was. I think it was Nixon. I think whoever the president was. Maybe I'm getting Nixon Watchmen confused. But whoever the president was, it was basically the president sends Superman to stop Batman, which is the whole reason why there's that fight. People love that comic. So you can have a complex Superman dealing with the moralities or the moral gray zones of being a human, because he's still trying to operate in that world. That's the whole thing. It's just people give him this Jesus look all the time, but then get upset when you say he's basically Jesus. Stop treating him like he's Jesus. If you want him to be a human, he's got to go through human problems. Batman v Superman, one of the greatest scenes from the Ultimate Cut was when he is looking at the news and the whole world is against him because KGB took out all those people and they blamed it on him. And he's got the congressional stuff and everyone's should we like Superman and not like Superman? And all he does is he just picks up his phone and he calls his mom. And that was a great scene. That was a fantastic scene because he just calls his mom. He's like, I don't know what to do. And his mom's Ma Kent's well, damn, screw him. You don't know him anything. That's what a mom should tell her kid, to build them up. That's what his dad was doing. It's you could help them, but you don't know what the cost is going to be to you. That was the whole point of Kevin Costner's bit in Man of Steel. But it gets so overlooked because people have this so narrow-minded vision of who this character is, because he's so closely mirrored to Jesus as this completely perfect, infallible being. That's not how stories work. It's not a compelling enough character to translate to a 2.5 hour long movie and part of a grander series. It doesn't work that way anymore. You gotta stop it. But people don't. They don't. Okay. Sorry, I got off on a real long rant there. Anyway, and that's the thing about Superman. He's not cool. He's not funny. He's not edgy. Unlike Captain America, he was never one of us. Like Wonder Woman, he's meant to be a beacon of hope in a dreary world, but he's significantly sillier than Wonder Woman. Just as silly as Thor and Shazam, but unable to pull off the irony. Well, they've made both Thor and Shazam funny, and that was fine for those characters. And you can still do some humor in Superman. I'm not saying don't do any humor. But the whole point is that Superman would be the straight man in a comedy of errors. He would be the person who's the straight guy, and everything else around him would be silly and stupid. But it's got to be played to, you got to have a good writer and a good person to bring that in. You can make it fun without making it too dumb. And again, I would personally just prefer the more human take that they were doing with Man of Steel, because of how I feel it better references where our society is at this moment in time and the moral questioning that comes with having these kind of powers. He goes on to say, obviously this is a generalization, but Superman means different things to different people, and any character, no matter how quaintly optimistic, should be able to thrive given the right story. I agree. But Superman occupies a very specific niche, a serious symbol of hope dwelling inside a bizarre universe. He doesn't seem to share Batman's malleability. The Dark Knight can switch between deadly serious and absurd to suit the times, while Superman remains stubbornly consistent. I do agree with that as well. Now, in this crowded superhero landscape, Superman doesn't offer anything unique. He's preceded and inspired many of these characters, but nowadays he feels like a relic from a bygone age at a time when a pair of glasses could be considered a disguise. Yeah. Again, it's like you have to kind of suspend the disbelief in that one quite a bit, but people still want to buy it. They still want to believe it. You know what I mean? Again, I think then look, I'm not trying to criticize people who are religious. By all means, have your faith. But I think like when you look at like the people treat him, I keep mentioning Jesus because he keeps kind of getting equated to Jesus. And when you look at it from that perspective, it's so like you can kind of see it. It's like you want to believe, so you will believe. You know, Lois Lane wanted to believe that Clark Kent wasn't Superman, so she saw Clark Kent and not Superman. You know what I mean? Like there's that, like this, the belief structure. Now it says here, funnily enough, Aquaman was in a similar situation, weighed down by the baggage of a much mocked mythology, but Aquaman's brand is rebooted with the help of the beardy tattoo Jason Momoa, who seems like he'd be a blast to grab a beer with. Yeah. Oh, was that Zack Snyder? Oh, that was Zack Snyder. Yeah, right. That was totally Zack Snyder who helped push that to $1 billion. I wonder what would happen if they continued going down the path of the characters that he helped bring back to the screen. And you know, Wonder Woman he produced, and that one ended up doing really, really, really well. And you know, Aquaman hit $1 billion, and a bunch of other aspects of it as well. You would argue, you would think, but no. Screw Zack Snyder. Am I right? Sarcastically, he says. Superman, however, will never be that guy. He can't be changed into a party animal. Superman has endured through the decades as an unchanging icon of hope, but that simplicity is proving an obstacle to cinematic success. Again, like I said, just dive into the humanity aspect of it, man. Have him question that. Have him question the label people put on him. Have him question his own morals, his own values, what he's attempting to be, the fact that he's always trying to better himself. He's trying to understand. There's nothing wrong with that. We all go through those trials and tribulations as being an evolving being. Why not just continue on that path? If you're looking for someone to be the ultimate beacon of morality, then have that person have to get to that point. You can't sit there and argue that Ray is a Mary Sue because she can, like, you know, force mind trick somebody, but be totally cool with Superman being able to fly out of the box. Right? And having that moral compass right out of the box. These things are taught. These things are learned. Some things you pick up instinctively, some things you pick up inherently, but for the most part, they are taught and that they are learned. And the character of Superman, yes, is from a bygone era. He cannot be certain things people want him to be. But what he was in Man of Steel and BVS and Justice League towards the end, when he showed up, was what fans were hoping for. In fact, like I said, Boy Scout Superman was a big factor that went into that. A lot of people who saw Justice League liked Superman at the end because of all that. Now, I don't know if a Zack Snyder version would give us something different. I don't know that. That would probably be my one question for Zack if I could ever ask him that question. But at the end of the day, he was on the right track. Start him off questioning things, have him still try to figure out who he is, and then become the symbol that people want. And you can do that. But you have to get him there first. And that's doable with movies. That is. Warner just doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Anyway, Christopher Reeve's Superman in the late 70s was a faithful depiction of the character that proved immensely popular with audiences. Arguably, the film was a first step towards today's crowded superhero landscape. In standing among the most diverse, interesting superheroes that fill the cinema, Superman feels more like an archetype than a fleshed out character. Perhaps Man of Tomorrow needs to take a decade away from the screen so audiences miss him again. And you know what? I will agree with that one. I do. But I like this one here. This came from Twitter from a guy named James O'Malley. This was his response that I kind of liked. It says, Lex Luthor realizes he can't physically outmatch Superman, so instead he uses a disinformation campaign to destroy not just Superman's reputation, but the idea of Superman. The twist is that it isn't Superman that can beat Lex Luthor, it's journalist Clark Kent. And like I said, when you have a situation where you have got a character that is so overpowered, how do you normalize them in the eyes of the audience? You would bring it down to base level, take it back to basics. And that is something that Zack Snyder was doing. But people didn't like it. I think at the time because they didn't think that they would like it. But I think after 6.5 years, a lot of people out there have grown to really like the character, really like what Cavill did, like what Snyder did. We wouldn't have the push for the Snyder cut that we do if that was not the case. Anyway, look, your mileage may vary on this. My opinion is my opinion. You can agree, disagree. I really want to hear your thoughts on this one. Let me know down in the comments below. If you guys want, like the video. I'm sure many of you out there will not, and that's totally cool. I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day. Thank you for watching, and peace out. This video is supported by patrons like you. If you'd like to become a patron, please head over to patreon.com/Matt Jarbo.